Hi guys, if you're wondering why this is in focus now, I'll get to that in a second. But first and foremost, I just want to say real quick because I'm having some technical difficulties right now with my phone, being kind of overloaded and all with like bunch of shit inside, and I need to really clean it out so I can actually work from it, even in terms of YouTube. But that's the main reason, like for me making that video here right now. So I have one in the works, but yeah, unfortunately, with the situation as it is, I can't really do much with my phone in terms of that. So I'm just making a quick video to let you know it's coming. A video is coming quite shortly, but I can't say, or quite shortly is even a misnomer in many ways because I honestly don't know. But yeah, my phone is kind of full, so I thought it would just be like delete old videos, like clips between my friends and whatnot. But it's not only that; it's like the usage on my internet, if you will, like all the tabs I have up and all that. So it's like it's not storage, it's memory as well. So I need to clean out my phone basically. But as I said before, like if you're wondering why this movie that some of you may have seen is right in front of the camera right now, it's because this is my original DVD from 1994. The movie, I don't know what time the DVD came out, but it's old enough to the point that this DVD is actually made from cardboard. This cover here, it's no plastic, no nothing like that. So it's like a cardboard cover, and this here, right here, that's the title in my language, which reflects the original title, and I'm gonna name this video, like Mandela effect question mark kind of thing, something like that. But I remember when I heard about this Mandela effect the first time, I figured I'd be fine because I have the original DVD, from the original release, right? So it will be the same. And that's not the case. Even my DVD had fucking changed title because I remember vividly seeing the ads for it back in the day, and it distinctively had a red A. So it was interview with a vampire, right? And the Norwegian title here reflects that because it says en, which if you read it as a number word, it's one. But if you read it like in a sentence, it means a vampire, not the vampire, okay? So there's a big difference. And if you know language, language reflects. Sometimes they completely make a new title, which means you can't even find the fucking movie in Norwegian because the title is so different from the original, you can't even find it. But in some cases, they stick to the script. They just do a word for word translation, and this is the case for this one. And so, this movie, which was called Interview with a Vampire, because when you saw the title card come up after the what's it called trailer for it, it was Interview with a Vampire, and the A was in blood red. That's the whole point of it. It was blood red because it's a vampire. Blood is a very key thing. So it was like blood red, and I had a dark background, and I remember that distinctly. So I remember back then going to my bookshelf, with all my DVDs, and I picked this out from the shelf, and I was like, surely it's gonna be the same, but it wasn't, and I was flabbergasted to say the least. And also, there's the Berenstein Bears, which now is Berenstain Bears. So Steen, which is like a Jewish name, versus Stain, what the fuck is that? But in my opinion, it's very simple, Something's happened and it's stained the world. There's something wrong with the world right now. Some people claim that the world ended in 2012 and we are all dead or whatnot, but I don't know if that's the explanation or if it's CERN or whatever. I don't know. I can only speculate as to what it is. But what I'm saying is, I know for a fact that this one, I knew the Norwegian title had the original title reflected in it, but I didn't know the English title had changed on my original old DVD. Because if I were to pick this up let's say, for the sake of argument, just pick a number, kind of thing. Let's say it was 2016, and I found the re-release. Then this DVD, if you pardon me, just let me put the phone down for a second. It will look like this. Of course, it wouldn't be the same picture because this is a different movie, but it would be like this, with a plastic cover and plastic sleeve around. So, like, it would be exactly like this. But the Warner Brother ones, when they first came out, they were made with cardboard, you see? And they had this flap here, and this is how you open them. So I thought to myself, no way that mine is going to have changed, because this was one of the first, like, not the very, very first, but like really early DVDs I bought. Because I not only thought it was like a fascinating story, but I believe also it was I think it was the first movie. I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I also believe it's the first movie that Kirsten Dunst was in. So I could be wrong on that, but I was curious to see. Like, I had heard about it, and I wanted to see the movie and see if it was any good. I'm not really into vampire movies normally, but this is one of the better ones, actually, I think. So I don't know, but as I told you just now, this is how the Warner Brothers, and I have a few of them. I have like at least 10, 15 of these, like with the paper covers, cardboard covers. So, what happened here? Who knows? Like I said, we can only speculate, but I was like convinced myself that when I went to my bookshelf, I would find the title to be exactly the same both in Norwegian and in English. But it isn't. So when that happened, it's quite a few years now. When that happened, I went to my bookshelf and picked it up and saw that it had changed. I was very much surprised. And like I said, I do remember the Berenstein Bears being Berenstein Bears because it's a Jewish name. And now today, it's Berenstain. So if you think about the word Steen, which is usually the end of many Jewish names, Goldstein, and I don't want to say the other guy's name, the one with the files, but those are Jewish names with the end with Steen. Or Lisa Edelstein. I don't know how she pronounces it, but I've heard it said Stein even. But the thing is, regardless how you pronounce it, it's still an E, not an A. And so that's the same with this one. Like, they're supposed to be very clearly like a thing where the title says it's a vampire, and it's hard to discern whether or not when they say the vampire, is it like emphasis on the, like the vampire, like the father of all vampires or something like that. What is the point of this change? I don't know, but the original was a vampire, which this title, like I said, if you read it as a number, it means one. But if you read this whole thing as a title or a sentence, it means a vampire, not the vampire. So there's a big difference. And like I said, back then, I was quite surprised to find out that this was the case. Because, like I said, I was sure that it would be, since this being a very old one, and the original release from Warner Brothers, here, at least in my neck of the woods, this is how Warner Brothers DVDs came. They came with these cardboard covers and this flap that you open. And now there's no flap, and they're all plastic. The only piece of paper that these have is the very thing that has, Ben Stiller's pictures and Vince Vaughn's pictures and the title. So, because this is Dodgeball in a Norwegian cover, But this is how any DVD looks after that point, regardless of where they come from. But Warner Brothers in particular had these. There might be others as well, but in my country, this was mainly Warner Brothers DVDs, as you can see here from the logo here. So I have, like I said, 10 or 15 of these, because these was like the first ones I have like Jack Frost, and I'm not sure about Jack Frost exactly, but I think even that one was one of them. And I had like one of the Woodstock movies like that, and the I can't say if I think it's the extended edition, which is like this kind of cover, because the other one that I had seen, I came across in something we have here in the country called Narvesen, which is now shutting down all over the country because like Rema has bought them out, and they have decided to like get rid of all of them. So I don't know why that is, but I thought for a minute, like this was only here locally, but it turns out it's the entire country. So, but like I said, when I went to my shelf that time years ago, I was expecting this to have the original English title, but it has changed since then. And how can something that you know to be a certain way change in front of you? And I even saw a video. I can't say if that video was real or fake or not, but it I don't know if it literally like changed in front of us viewers' eyes as well, but at least it was a similar experience to mine, where the title had changed contrary to what the person knew, because they go to the shelf and pick up something, whatever it may be, to prove that theirs is still original. And I can't remember right now if it actually changed on the video too in front of us, or it was just different to the person in question at the time. But I'm telling you, it's like things have changed. And like, is this was Nosferatu, the classic vampire movie. That would make sense if the movie was called The Vampire, because, I don't know for who would be considered the original vampire, because if we go to the roots of it, that would be Vlad Tepes, the Vlad the Impaler as he's known. He is the basis for most vampire stories, Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepes as his name was. But Nosferatu as well, since that was the classic movie, I think it was like 20s or 30s, then that would also make sense if this was that kind of story. But the one which is played by Tom Cruise, I guess, because Brad Pitt's character is very different, But if he was the original vampire, the one who spawned all the others, then that would make sense why he's the vampire. But as I said before, if you look at the Norwegian title and you read it as a title or a sentence, it says A Vampire's Confession. Or confessions, I should say, because this last word here is a plural word. So it doesn't say anything about interviews, That's the English word. But here it's using the word which means confessions. So it's like, when you go to a Catholic church, you take confession, and this is a vampire doing it. So the title reflects that. But if you look at the first part, which is, like I said, number 1 for en, which it means, and if you read it as a sentence or a title, it means a vampire's confessions. So how can that become the or the or the? Because it's the same word, but it's different pronunciation and different significance. Because if you say the, it means the original one, the one who started it all, basically. But if you say the, like the car or the keys or whatever, it's just to specify that it is a certain specific thing. But a means something who's just happened to be a vampire, not just like the father of all vampires or something. So it's interesting to see that the Norwegian title reflects the original one, which was Interview with a Vampire, versus the new version, which now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, But maybe the camera can see better than me, because my eyesight is not what it used to be. So let's see if we can find it somewhere. I think it should be here, and if I could just get it to focus. Yeah, here you see it. Interview with the vampire. So the or the, I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter like how you pronounce it, but the word is very different. And the Norwegian title, on the other hand, says a vampire. So it still reflects the original title. And I would urge you all to look into this for yourself. Don't take me at face value, but I was surprised to see that my DVD, which I distinctly remember the ads for this movie, having that dark title card, if you will, and then or maybe not a dark title card, because it was just the background. It was like all black, and then the writing was in white, I guess. I can't say for sure, but it was like all black, the entire, not just a title card, but the entire background was black. And then the writing was there, but the A was pronounced very much more, being red and all, because it was a different color to the other words in the sentence, you know. And it was interview with a vampire. And I even saw a clip on YouTube from an awards show where the thing came up and it looked exactly as I remembered it, with a red A. So whatever they are doing on, or what happened, whether this is something to do with CERN, or like realities merging or parallel dimensions, I don't know. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I believe in God, So, but it's very strange, because I even have a King James Bible, which was released in 1611. And as far as I know, both of the Elizabeths of the UK, the Queens, number 1 and 2, were in the, like, same time span, if you will. Because this one we had most recently was Queen Elizabeth II, right? So Queen Elizabeth I, even if that was the first one, it was not in the 1600s, but there was like a foreword to that, calling her the Great Occitan Star or something like that. And how can it refer to a royal person that's not even existing yet? And there was another thing which initially led me to that King James version of the Bible, because the thing was, I heard something on the internet about a specific piece of scripture, which had changed. And since I had the English King James Bible available to me, the 1611 version, so to speak, I went to look it up. And sure enough, that first thing that led me to check out that Bible was there. But more importantly, when I saw the foreword praising Queen Elizabeth I, and please, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, even the first Elizabeth wasn't in that time of 1600s. It was later on. So, because no human being can live more than 100 years. So even if our Queen Elizabeth II was 100 years, then it would go back 200 years at the most, which would make it 1800s, right? Or late 1700s at best. But this Bible was from 1611 and still had like a foreword praising Queen Elizabeth I. How? So there is something definitely going on. And the scripture that I was looking up, it had something about piss it against the wall. Pissing, basically. And why would the Bible use the word so, especially in the 1600s? Of course, it was more old-fashioned, but it, like, in the interest of being polite or not vulgar, they wouldn't use a word like piss in such a document. They shouldn't, at least. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't make sense. So what started one thing led to another, because I am the kind of person to look into things properly. Like, I wouldn't just, like, I would note, I took the time to read the foreword, because that's why it's called the King James Bible. It had nothing to do with Elizabeth the First. It was I guess I don't know what the right word for it, but it was like ordered, quote unquote, ordered by King James to make a Bible available like that. And from what I've learned even more recently, supposedly there was another one who was the source. And they basically took his compilation of the Bible, rejected him, and then much later on they took it out of the shelves or drawers or whatever, and they didn't even give him credit for it because they rejected his compiling of the word because he just wanted to everyone to have the Bible available to them in their language, which was English, but he was rejected and they stole his work basically, and he was never credited for his compilation of all these books and translation of them from the Greek and I don't remember what the other language was, but it was like two languages which were translated. I think it was Latin, yeah, Greek and Latin. So it was translated from Greek and Latin into English. So, and it was then the one we know today as the King James Bible was quote unquote as a gift for King James, if you will, because that was the compiled version of most, if not all, the books, because obviously the apocryphs are out, uh, and some claim there are other books who are out too. I'm not going to go into that debate. That's a whole debate of its own. But what I'm saying is the main Bible, because even the Bible itself says if anyone removes or adds, they will have punishment like tenfold for corrupting the Bible, if you will. Either way, if they add something or they take something out, they will suffer, basically. They will suffer the wrath of God. So I'm not worried about that. That's not my business. That's God's business. You understand? So that's my attitude towards it. But I went into it looking for, like when I heard this, and it was also something about wine, a vessel for keeping wine that had changed, and I looked that up too, and it's true. It has changed too because it was something. Because back in those days, at best, they would use what's called a wine skin, but it was referring to a bottle or something like that. So it was a modern word which has no place in those times. And it was the same with pisseth. Pisseth against the wall was the particular writing in that scripture. And the thing was, like in those times, it would be odd to use such a verbiage, because that would be kind of vulgar in a sense. And regardless if it's more old-fashioned way of saying the word, it's still vulgar. But more importantly and more shockingly, the fact that Queen Elizabeth is mentioned in a book that was for King James. So take it as you wish, but it's very odd. And I'm not like I know many things. Like I remember, for example, I'm one of the few who goes the opposite way when it comes to the name, not for the Mandela effect itself, because that was a different story. I didn't know or see enough about Mandela to make any such claim. But what I will say is the part about some people claim they saw the famous scene in China with the soldier against the tank, and someone claims that the tank ran him over and killed him. But I don't remember that. So I'm the one of the few on that one where I says the opposite to those who describe that Mandela effect. But if I come across one like this one, and I have the original DVD, of course I'm going to look it up and see how it compares to what I know to be a fact from then, but then to find out it's not the same anymore. So what's changed? You tell me. And this is, like I said, just a short video to focus a little bit on that, because like I said, I'm not really into the Mandela effect itself like that, but I just wanted to show you a little bit so you get a little bit of an insight to that, but more importantly to also let you know that I have a long video coming. This is just a shorter one to let you know I'm having some technical difficulties right now, and it will take a while for me to like time. You need time for everything, and you have to have time to do certain jobs. And this is one of those jobs that's going to take a little while. So bear with me, and a new video will be coming eventually. I can't promise you when, but it will come. So that's all I had for now. This is Beatnologic signing out, saying thank you for taking the time to listen and all that. And if you like it, leave a like. If you don't, leave a dislike. Either way, I'm fine. And have a good one. And peace, everyone.